Thanks very much, Carol, and thanks for inviting me to present today. So, yes, so my name is Annalisa Montesanti. So I've been leading this with a team, of course, of people, this portfolio of a health research career since the start of the strategies of the HRB strategy, which was in 2016. So we're almost at the end of the strategy this year. So what I'm going to do is to go through the health research career framework, which we coordinated at the end of the strategy, the career journey, so it's very much the funding opportunity, and then just the last few slides is very much about the funding process as a summary. So in terms of the framework, this is part of the overall HRB strategy. With 3 focus areas and 3 enablers. And so enabler A is the supporting of exceptional researchers and leaders. So that's what we were tasked to do. So we have a goal that was to support the researcher, talent, and leadership, and is very much to support the 3 focus areas that we had in the strategy. So it was very much to undertake high quality research and generate evidence to address health challenges, health intervention, and research needs in the Irish health and social care system. So what we wanted to do was to train excellent PhD training through programs to support and develop postdoctoral research and emerging investigator, identify, develop, and support leaders, and also facilitate training or short course or other professional development opportunities. And the people we identified were the researcher, very much when we refer to research as academic-based researcher, then we have the health and care practitioners, so it would be the medical doctor, allied health professionals, and so on. And then the innovators are very much people that can bring something from an application to a product, but that not in the sense of a pharma product necessarily. So it could be a researcher themselves, could be health care practitioner, could be decision maker or policy makers. And then the outcome we want to have is very much to generate ideas, to drive the integration of research and evidence into policy and practice, to improve decision making, and ultimately health outcome, and at the end is to have a wider impact in society. These were the ambitions. In terms of the principles, so these are the principles we design, well, we didn't design, we basically base our framework on. So all the funding scheme have at some level all these guiding principle. So of course the leadership scheme would have a stronger emphasis, for example, on actionable knowledge, comparing to maybe a PhD training, but these principles are in all the schemes. So it's very much actionable knowledge, collaboration, integration, and cross-disciplinarity. The flexibility and diversity is very much because we don't serve just the population of the academic researcher, but also many others who needs more flexibility. Open knowledge, which is of course linked to the open science. The professional development of skills that in the past very often was focusing very much on the training, during the training of PhD, but is very much throughout the career, and research assessment and impact. And that's very much linked to the DORA. I don't know if people are familiar with the San Francisco Declaration of Researcher Assessment, and which basically very much focus on the diversity of type of researchers and flexibility of the eligibility criteria. That's all the things HRB has been doing in the last few years to implement all these principles. So for example, active research experience is the one that is considered during the eligibility of the different scheme, but also from the panel and the peer reviewers perspective, because any gaps in the productivity has to be considered linked to career breaks, carers breaks, and so on. There is the flexibility to have a broad range of research output in your CV or in your applications. So we never, and definitely we don't emphasize the impact factor or the H index as guidance. The description of a role, for example, in many schemes, we ask the description of your role or the impact of the research funding that you have conducted, of the research you have conducted so far, and also synergistic activity in which you can explain more in a narrative base some example of your leadership, research process, your outreach activity, and social impact, societal impact. And then we give also this guidance to peer and panel reviewer through written documentation, and also for the panel reviewers also during the meetings. We are tackling gender balance and unconscious bias, and also more recently in the last probably 8 months, we've invited observer to our panel meeting, and that's very much in line with our transparency, the transparency of the review process. And we are giving priority to people from the research offices because they can work as multipliers. Okay, so this is the dual career path we have created during the last few years. So we have a career path for academic researcher and a career path for healthcare practitioner, which is on the bottom. And then we have different schemes. Some of the schemes, like the Collaborator Awards, serve the purpose of the two audience, the two target population. Others are very much similar, so kind of sister scheme, funding scheme, like the Emerging Investigator and the Emerging Clinician Scientist Awards. And this very much so we can have more flexibility, and we can try to have a good success rate in both type of researchers. So the accepted outcome of this portfolio is that we produce a highly skilled workforce of collaborative research in health knowledge creation, translation, and implementation. That's very much the emphasis on applied research and actionable knowledge, in order to ensure that research and evidence are integrated into policy and practice, and also to attract more people working in a healthcare setting who are trained and active in research, resulting in a better quality of care and outcome. So in terms of the journey, so and the funding opportunity, so the majority of the scheme, or all the scheme, are very much emphasizing the strong potential to make research funding applicable and transferable into improved healthcare and policy. And the three broad research areas are clinical research, health service research, and population health research. Now, in each funding scheme, there is a much longer paragraph regarding the scope, and we include what is in and what is actually ineligible. So please read the guidance quite careful when you apply for grants. So in terms of the training phase, so we have 3 different schemes, and they're all based on the emphasis on structured, mentored, cohort-based training programs. So we moved away from fellowship, individual awards, and in the last 5 years, we have basically invested on the SPHERE program, just at the bottom of the page. So there was 2 phases, and about 40 PhD scholars have been recruited so far. Then there is the Welcome HRB Irish Clinical Academic Training Program, ICAT, that is training a medical doctor during the specialty training at PhD level. And then we have the Collaborator Awards in patient-focused research. And so far we had 7 awards with about 33 doctoral candidates from different disciplines to be trained together. And this is a cohort of usually, each program has a cohort of usually 4 or 5 PhD candidates, and there's a mix between academic researcher and healthcare practitioners. At postdoctoral fellowship, we have the Applying Research into Policy and Practice, the Clinician Scientist Fellowship, the HRB Internship Program, and then the Wellcome Trust Fellowship. I'm not going to go through the Wellcome Trust Fellowship, but there are different links in our website, or you can go and see also the Wellcome Trust website, and there are different opportunities. You apply to Wellcome directly, but if you are successful, HRB and SFI will pay 50% of your funding. So in terms of the postdoctoral fellowship, that is where they sit in the career path. So in the academic research is very much at the second part of your postdoctoral period, because you need to have at least 2 years of active research experience post-PhD. Instead, the clinician scientist is a bit more flexible because of the different career path of these individuals. So in terms of the applying research into policy and practice, They are targeting academic-based researcher. We had the first call in 2017 with award in 2018, an investment of 2.4 million supporting 10 fellows. The first call actually had two arms. One for the academic and one for the healthcare practitioner. Then in the second call, we diversified the two funding scheme. So this ARP scheme is very much for academic researchers. The second call outcome will be known in 2 weeks. We have a board meeting with approval of the recommendation of the panel at the end of this month. So the aim and the objective are very much to increase the capability of conducting applied health research in Ireland, investing in the future leadership in applied research, the opportunities, provide opportunities for intersectoral placement outside academia. So that could be done in block, or it can be like as a co-localization of the research between academia maybe and a department, an agency that's outside academia. And this is something that's been taken up by all the fellows that are successful, but many other applicants as well, that even if they are not successful. The aim is to support new research projects with potential to be applied and transferred into policy and practice, increase cross-disciplinarity and intersectoral collaboration, and increase the potential of research independence. So then people that have this fellowship have a good potential to then apply for a lectureship or other independent investigator awards. The duration is between 3 years if you do, up to 3 years if you apply for full-time, or up to 6 years if you apply part-time. And that's very much could be for other academic arrangements you have in your institution, or also for family or other personal reasons. And then, so we support your salary, and then we support up to 50,000 euro for research-related costs, which include running costs, data management, equipment, and so on. The next call is envisaged in 2021. I can't give you an update of the current call, but it's the results of the previous call. So we have 10 awards with 30% men and 70% women. And there is a good, a broad range of disciplines and professions. Broad research area, we had a good mix between population health research, health service research, and clinical research. And then, as you can see, several part-time as well applied and were successful. The second HRB postdoctoral fellowship scheme is the Clinician Scientist Fellowship. And this is very much targeting health and health practitioners who are working currently in clinical practice. The first call has been completed as well. The outcome will be known in 2 weeks. And we expect to invest in the region of 2 million. And I'm not going to repeat, but the main feature of the scheme are almost identical to the ARP. The duration of the funding in this case is up to 4 or 5 years, because these people are going to work instead 50% of their time, because the expectation the remaining 50% will be in clinical settings. So these individuals are going to work academically alongside their clinical practice. And then, so we support 50% of their salary, and then it's very much to cover the locum replacement, and then as well, like the ARP, is 50,000 euro for their research-related cost. And the next call as well is envisaged in 2021, but we are still finalizing the new strategy, so there are no dates confirmed yet. The other postdoctoral fellowship scheme is the internship program. So this is give researchers who want to leave academia, or they are thinking maybe they want to have an opportunity outside academia, even for just a period of time, and who have earned a PhD or also a master, given opportunity to gain first-hand experience in a state agency alongside experienced professionals. So target research with a degree, the duration is 24 months. The interns rotate between two main directorates, the Research Strategy and Funding and the Health Information and Evidence Directorate. and spend 1 year each in each directorate. And then each rotation includes also some project in communication with the communication team. So far, we had 4 calls, and this is just a list of an example of what people, where people went after the internship. Some people stayed in the HRB through potentially some contracts, some with permanent position as project officer or researcher. In some case, they left and they went to pharma or SFI and then pharma again. One intern went to Médecins Sans Frontières, and so on. So currently we have other 5 new interns who started in early 2020, and the next call is envisaging Q3 2021 to start basically in January in 2022. The next phase, the next stage is the investigator, so it's very much focusing on the transitioning phase towards research independence. So we have 2 schemes, Emerging Investigator Award and Emerging Clinician Scientist Awards. So these 2 schemes were completed recently, so I can give you some highlights of the schemes. So the overarching aim is to develop a cohort of new and talented individuals by facilitating and supporting their transition toward research independence. And this is very much emphasizing mentoring, a strong mentoring, while the mentor needs to facilitate the independence of these individuals. So it's a different type of mentoring that you would have during training phase or during the postdoctoral phase. We're trying to shorten the gap between research evidence, policy, and practice. Other feature is team-based and collaborative approach. So in the team, we need to look at breadth of expertise, cross-disciplinarity, intersectoral, and cross-border collaboration. We emphasize a strong PPI, very much, of course, depending on the research project. In some is stronger than others, and or stakeholder engagement. That's very much because if you want to bring something more towards policy and practice. As mentioned before, linked to DORA, there is a qualitative, more narrative-based research assessment of the lead applicant and the team. So there are specific questions we ask which are more narrative-based. It's not just a list of your research output. And then a strong support from your institution, because we expect the institution, following their policy, will continue supporting the individuals beyond this award. So far we had 2 calls for the Emerging Investigator Award and 1 call for the Emerging Clinician Scientist Award. And we are supporting 27 new emerging individuals. There are 7 among the health and care practitioners, and 20 are academic researchers. That's the gender balance, which is very, very balanced. And then in the table, there is a breadth of profession where medicine is the top, because very much is the stronger profession among the health and care practitioner. But you can see that there are also others like psychology, physiotherapy, health service, and so on. This is just the breadth. So the mix of the host institution, not surprising, Trinity College was quite strong, and then followed by RCSI, the UCC, but as well, this reflects as well how many applications all these institutions are also supporting at the time of applications. In terms of awards by research area, there is a mix between clinical research, health service with a peak in patient-oriented research, and population health research. And as well, apart that we are supporting these 27 individuals, each individual has a new research team. So we are supporting additional 56 research staff among the 27 research new individuals that we are supporting. And that's very much a PhD level, postdoctoral research, and then a few other research assistant and research nurse. The last career stage is the transition to research leadership, and that's very much with the long-term outcome of this investment is that the innovation and leadership of these individuals will accelerate the translation and or implementation of research knowledge towards tangible outputs, which is missing. So we are targeting established investigator in the higher, in higher education institutions who are making significant progress in becoming leaders in health research, but yet are not recognized leaders in health research in-house. They might be leading their research program, they might be leading already a team, but they're not leading in a broader sense. The aim is very much to create a cohort of new research leader who can drive actionable knowledge. And that's very much the emphasis on the words drive, for example, in respect to the emerging investigator who will facilitate actionable knowledge. So all this, as I say at the beginning, these guiding principles are applied in all the schemes, but the emphasis can be stronger or lighter. So in research area of strategic relevance in health policy, for health policy, health delivery, or in clinical practice. And then the long term, I already mentioned that. So in terms of the overview, so the scheme is not totally new. We had two calls between 2010 and 2015. And this is the call we had at the end of the current strategy, which is very much similar, but there are a few small differences from the previous call. So the targets was established investigator in academic setting. In HRB was going to invest 7.5 million, and each award was for a duration of 5 years and up to 1.5 million, including overheads. The key feature of the scheme, as I mentioned, is actionable knowledge, team-based and collaborative approach, strong partnership with the health partner, strong PPI and or stakeholder engagement, research sense. As you can see, all the features are quite similar across all the schemes. And also at this level, the mentorship is quite important, although the mentorship arrangement are quite different. And then there is also an encouragement to co-localize the research, and that's very much to emphasize how important is the co-localization of research or the very strong collaboration with health partner or other stakeholders in order to apply the research funding into practice and policy. We had 5 awards. That was early this year, around February, and the profession of these awardees are health economics, epidemiology, health service research, psychology, and physiotherapy. So quite diverse. And that's just a list of the project outcome, which include Sloan Care, a reduction of infection and the use of antibiotic, Center of Excellence for Implementation Science, psychological support for young people, and something to do with ensuring that all the adults receive tailored care to meet their needs. This is very much to summarize the portfolio so far. In some case where it's highlighted yet is because we don't have the final results in terms of the gender for the PhD candidate, because some still have to be recruited this year. Under the fellowship as well, the internship are not included there, and as well, I couldn't put the final number of the postdoctor from this year. So then we have 27 investigator and 5 research leader, and in the bottom we have the total investment. So this is very much a summary as well in the bottom table of all the people that we are supporting through the individuals. We are supporting indirectly in the teams, the new teams or established team that are increasing in terms of size. Then we have small courses or other opportunities. So we have the summer student scholarship, which is usually quite popular. So we have so far in the last 5 years, 285 awards since 2016. And the next call is in November. Usually is about the 3rd week in November with closing in January in terms of application. And this is very much to support undergraduate students in health or social care related discipline to complete a short project, usually 8 weeks during the summer. And that's very much to encourage their first interest in research. So it's very much for early careers, so undergraduates, and the research area is very broad. The funding available is up to 2,400 per award. and the duration of funding is up to 8 weeks. And then we have the Fulbright Health Impact Awards, and that's very much focusing on the professionals with some experience to travel to use, so 5 or more years of experience, professional experience, to travel to US to undertake research or other professional development in any area of health. And that's very much run, run by the Fulbright Commission in Ireland, but there's a strong collaboration, of course, with the Commission. And the next call will be at the end of August. And so far we had 11 awards. Now, next 2 slides is very much to summarize. There are 2 ways we the application, the review process is conducted. In some schemes, like for example, the fellowship scheme, it's a 1-stage application. So it means the full application is submitted to the HRB, it goes through an eligibility check, and then is sent to peer reviewers around the globe. So these are the real experts in the area you're working on. And we tend to have at least 3 peer review comments submitted and scored. And then we shortlist application for a panel funding recommendation. So we usually have a panel meeting and that is based on panel discussion if it's a project grant, and if it usually is a fellowship, it's an interview. Of course, this year we had to change from interview to panel discussion because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And then the recommendation of the panel goes to the HRB board for approval of funding. And then we provide an outcome letter. And then the feedback from the panel is also given to the applicants. In this case, if there is a panel discussion or even a panel interview, there is also a right to reply phase where people can receive, before the panel discussion, they receive as well they receive the comments from the peer reviewers, and they have the opportunity to respond back in writing so they can clarify maybe if there was any misunderstanding. They can discuss the potential feedback or recommendation if something can be taken on board, maybe an additional collaborator, an additional co-applicant, and so on. The other schemes, like for example the emerging investigator, the collaborative doctoral award, or the research leader, they go through a 2-stage application because some of these applications are quite big. So we don't want people to spend long time in writing an application when actually then they don't have a great chance of succeed through this stage 2. So what we do, we ask people to write a shorter application. Is shorter in terms that we ask, mostly we ask a lot of information about the team, the lead applicant, and then an outline of the research project or research program. Then we call a panel meeting. So there is a pre-application panel review phase where usually the panel meeting happen in Dublin, and people, they're more generalists, but they can discuss considering the assessment criteria of the pre-application stage. They discuss the application and they decide which one have more chance of success. And then, so they are invited to write a full application. So the application stage is reopened for these individuals. And then we have an international peer review, again, a panel review, which for career stage is done by interviews, and then there are fund recommendation again to the board. And these are just put, I didn't think there was enough time to go through other tips for writing. So it's very much about key factors to a successful application, is to read carefully the guidance note, to call the HRB if you don't have clarity, if you're undecided which funding scheme, for example, is for you, or anything to do with the application form or the guidance. Ask advice to your peers, collaborator, and mentor. Ask questions to the funder, that's just say, talk to others, maybe who have succeeded in the scheme. And we usually list people that have been successful in our website. Prepare well for the interview, have a mock interview, and that is something we advise to people, even a leadership position. And write the application with your reviewers in mind. That's, I think, is the end for me. So if there are any questions, I'm very happy to respond.
Great, thanks very much, Annalisa. That was a really clear overview of all the different funding opportunities. So I certainly learned a bit from that presentation. So thanks very much. So there's no questions there at the moment. So if anyone has any questions, if you just want to type it into either the chat or the Q&A, so we'll just give you a minute to do that. And did you want to, you made me host there, Annalisa?
No, I'm going to make you host. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yes, you're host now.
Thanks.
And if there are no questions now, of course, anytime you can contact me by email, by phone. Well, at the moment we're all teleworking anyway. Probably email is easier, and then we can have a phone call. So, of course, many of these schemes we envisaged might stay. Of course, we are finalizing the new strategy, so we still don't know exactly how and when many schemes will be on again, but we have a fair idea because we have done quite a lot of development during the last 5 years. So we don't envisage we are going to change so much, but we can stay in touch and see.
Okay, great. And so a question has come in there. Are there any funding opportunities for an MSc student who is a nurse?
We don't support MS student directly, so we usually tend to, if you want to do research, the best way is probably through other individuals that are established research, and then you can be a nurse with your skills employed in those projects. Or if you want to do a PhD, then yes, there are opportunities for nurses through the Collaborate Doctor Awards. But so then you don't apply for funding directly to the HRB. It's other senior researchers that apply for funding. Then once they have the funding, depending on the area of research, then they recruit. And they recruit a quite diverse range of individuals.
Okay, that's great. So I just wanted to say thank you to all our speakers, Suzanne Guerin, Fiona Keogh, Barry Boland, Brona Hayden, Isabel Klein and Annalisa today. And also just wanted to say a quick thank you to our organising committee. So there's quite a bit of work went into preparing the seminar series, which we were supposed to be meeting in person, but obviously we had to change tack and do it online. So the organising committee were Calvin Ash, Francesca Farina, Anya Tian, Dawn Higgins and Tim Duclo. And obviously for our audience as well. And I just see another question coming in, so I'll just stop sharing that. Okay, that's just a thank you. And yeah, so somebody's just asking, how do I access the recorded sessions? So they'll be on the DRNI YouTube channel. So if you go into YouTube and just search Dementia Research Network Ireland, you'll find that all the recordings there. Okay, so thanks again, Annalisa, and thanks
very much
for dialing in. Okay, take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.